The following program contains shocking assertions of truth. If you suffer from relativism, Randall may not be right for you. Check with your local guru.
How would you like to live in a world where you could tap the screen and whatever you want happens? I'm interested. I really am. Son, come here. Good boy. Honey.
Standing for truth in the four corners of America. Fighting for justice on the frontiers of the culture wars. And turning resistance into an art form. Randall Terry.
Hello, friend. We are broadcasting from our temporary mobile studio here in Memphis, Tennessee, where our family and half of our TV team has relocated so that my son, Michael Winston, can receive cancer treatment at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. I ask you to please pray for him, that he will be completely healed, and pray for our team as we try and adjust to the new normal. All right, let's go to the news. The American Academy of Pediatrics has released a warning. Children under 2 years old should not be using a tablet. The iPad, the Kindle, these various devices. Literally, 40% of children under two and under, are using these devices. 75% of children that are 8 and under are using them. Now, the American Academy of Pediatrics is saying, all right, listen, folks, there's going to be a problem with brain development for little kids because the images are coming too fast. The children are having fine motor skill problems, and they're having overall developmental problems with their body, with their muscles, because they're not out running around playing. They're playing with a tablet. First of all, who lets a 2-year-old play with a $500 item? I mean, when my family goes to the dollar store, we've got 4 sons, so we're stressing out over whether we buy $1 Hot Wheel for each boy, or do we up the ante and buy a 10-pack, for $8. I've got a friend who has family members. They have 4 kids, ages 4 to 10. All right, 4 children, ages 4 to 10. Every child has their own iPad, and mom and dad have an iPad too. All right, that's $3,000, $3,500 worth of iPads. Who spends that kind of money on something for their children that is not going to help them? I mean, let's think about this. If you had that, let's say $3,000, and you bought 1 iPad or 1 desktop, they'd be even safer, with a nice screen that everyone has the use of when mom and dad feel it's appropriate. What could you do with that other $2,500? You could go to Yellowstone, go to the Rockies, go to Colonial Williamsburg. You could go camping, fishing, buy a tent, do something really crazy like sit around a campfire and sing and make s'mores and tell stories, and someone breaks out the guitar and starts singing. The guitar, that's another option. $2,500. Instead of buying iPads, you could buy every member of the family a really nice instrument. You could buy a drum set. You could buy a guitar and a little amp, another guitar and a little amp, a mandolin, a banjo. You could buy an acoustical guitar. You could buy a bass. Ask me how I know. Yeah, we have musical instruments. Now, doctors are saying there's also an intellectual problem here because these children are basically living in a fantasy world. Tap on the screen and something happens. Now, I have to admit, this is enticing. Tap, something happens. Ladies, wouldn't it be nice if you wanted your husband to make dinner and on that particular evening he wasn't interested, and you just went tap, and there he was, making the dinner of your choice and doing the dishes afterwards. Gentlemen, is your wife quarreling with you a little too much? Tap. Or, honey, are you interested? No? Tap. Immediate response. It's not the real world. Life, hard work, struggle, hardship, suffering, failure, having to do it over and over again till you get good at it. That's real life. And we as parents and as grandparents have a duty to see that our children grow into healthy, functional adults, preparing them to reach eternity, to be with God. And I have a sneaking suspicion that giving a child an iPad when they're 2 or 4 or 6 or 8 is going to harm that journey, not help it. But I do like tap. That part I like. Also, you've got these devices that are the babysitter. Parents aren't raising their children. They're letting an iPad device do it for them. This is sort of like WALL-E. Remember that movie? It's an animated story. Eva! And all the humans were on this big spaceship where they never did anything. They all just turned to blubber, and they all had little iPad devices, and they would do what they wanted to do in their head, and they would watch it all. But they had to be carted around on these floating devices because their motor nerves wouldn't work. They were all so overweight from having done nothing but live in cyberspace that they couldn't even walk. They could barely feed themselves. All right, I've got to take a break. Here's an idea. Invest in play school devices. Remember those little wooden things? Or Legos for your kids. And take the iPad, sell it if you've got one, and buy a musical instrument. Because when someone's 25 years old, if they were spending an hour a day practicing their instrument, little keyboard, big keyboard, instead of playing on their iPad, tap, 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 I think you know that the 25-year-old who can play the instrument is going to be a lot happier than the 25-year-old who can play Ninjago on his iPad. Every day in America, over 3,500 babies are torn apart by abortion. Shouldn't all babies, like this living, unborn child, have the right to life? Baby killing will only end when Americans see the truth of what abortion does to innocent children. You can help end this Holocaust by showing the truth of abortion in your area with a Face the Truth tour. Go to facethetruthamerica.com to set up a Face the Truth tour in your area. The babies and their mothers will be eternally grateful. How would you like to be able to reach hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of potential customers with your product or your company or your web-based business? Well, you can do that right here on this show. Every single day, we get phone calls or letters or orders online from states all over the country where people are watching this television show. Right now, we are seen in 45 cities at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time every night, and then a rerun again at 12:30 midnight. You can reach them using this show at advertising rates that are so inexpensive, it would blow your mind. So, if you're interested, contact us at the phone number that you see on the screen or the email address, and we can talk about how you can grow your business and help support this show. Welcome back to the program, friend. Let's talk about Big Brother for a moment. Of course, Obama has stepped in it royally over the debacle of the Affordable Health Care Act, commonly known as Obamacare, because he just went out on a limb and said, hey, all right, I changed my mind. You can keep your policies for the next year. Oops, I forgot to check with the state insurance commissioners in 50 states. I forgot to check with the insurance companies, who are now going to have to send out millions of letters, retracting the millions of letters where they canceled everyone's insurance policies. That could cost some money. I don't know anything about the private sector. Money? Isn't that something we just print? Where's Bernanke when you need him? He quit. I can't believe it. Print more money. Anyway, let's just mock the idea of a dictatorship in America, because in some ways, we're moving towards it. Right? I mean, Obama just arbitrarily says, go ahead, keep your insurance. We're going to take it away. No, we're giving it back to you. Is he a dictator? How about he's spying on all of us with the NSA? Spying on his allies? Huh? Merkel, leader of Germany? How about the IRS debacle, where they're using the IRS to punish political opponents, whether they're in the Tea Party or whether they're at Gibson Guitars? We do not have a king, but we have somebody who's behaving like a king. Why is that? Because we let him. Because our elected officials let him. I mean, the question is, does Obama have the authority to just arbitrarily write off the law that he forced to be passed? My guess is, remember Nancy Pelosi when they finally voted for the Affordable Health Care Act? She said, we have to vote for the bill so that we can find out what's in it. She actually acknowledged that in the 2,000 pages of the bill, she hadn't read it, but she wanted people to vote for it. And then it opened up the floodgates for Health and Human Services to write 25,000 pages, 25,000 pages of regulations. My bet is that Obama has the authority somewhere in those regulations to go ahead and arbitrarily change things. But it still feels like a police state to me. I mean, think about what TSA has recently done. The folks that are in charge of the airport security. Did you hear about this one? That they've got what they're calling detention pods. When people leave the secured area, they go into a room, the doors shut behind them, but there's another set of doors in front of them that are closed. They come in, the door's shut, they're trapped like human sardines, and then the other door's open. Why do we need those doors? These are people leaving. I mean, here's the question. What if the electricity goes out when they're all in there together? What about people who are sick? Is this a human sardine manufacturing plant? What about people with body odor? Why do I have to be in a detention pod to leave? These are people that are exiting. This is Big Brother seeing how much we'll take. And right now, it appears to me that an awful lot of the American people are prepared to take just about anything. I've got to take a break. When I come back, we're going to talk about family quarrels. The Cheneys getting some good press out of the whole same-sex union issue. Let's talk about political issues too. Do you want to have knowledge, wisdom, discernment? If so, you have to read good books on theology, history, books that look at the lives of great men and women. So to help you to become a more effective Christian, a better witness for truth, somebody who can engage in productive conversation that exhorts and edifies those that you speak with, we're going to do something crazy. We're offering you these 7 books for a gift of any size. You just pay for the shipping and handling, and then give whatever gift that you can, and we will send them to you. But just to make it a little bit more crazy, I will send you a second copy of my 3 books, autographed. You can give them as a gift to your pastor or to a family member and help extend truth and justice in the world. This is while supplies last. Mabel, come on in here, baby. Randall Terry's going to tell us how we can get on TV with some family controversy. No, not like Duck Dynasty, like the Cheneys. Hey, welcome back. Did you see some of the hubbub over Liz Cheney, who's running for the U.S. Senate in Wyoming, and her sister? I'm just trying to watch my words. I'm so tired of talking about garbage and worried about kids who are watching. The sister who is in a same gender legal union that is an abomination. So they're quarreling publicly. Well, you know, it ended up getting the candidate on Fox TV. Yeah, Sunday morning, she was on Fox. I mean, the only bad press is no press, right? So she is running for office. Her sister is in this tragic lifestyle. Liz Cheney says, no, I support traditional marriage only. And it's become a political hot button issue. And it got her on TV, gave Mike Wallace at Fox something to interview her about. There are hot button issues that we get manipulated with regularly. I mean, have you heard about the one in D.C.? The mayor of Washington, D.C. is about to sign a bill that says that if you're an illegal immigrant, you cannot prove the legality of your immigration status, we'll still give you a driver's license. Now, it's kind of funny. There are 10 states that already do that, right? There hasn't been a hubbub. But Congress, because Congress is in control of an awful lot of what happens in Washington, D.C. politically, Congress has the authority to override the bill that Washington, D.C. Council is passing and to say, no, you cannot grant driver's licenses to illegal immigrants. So here's what I predict. I predict that there will be members of the U.S. House and members of the U.S. Senate who will introduce legislation that overturns the D.C. law. This becomes a political football for the 2014 election. Here's how it'll happen, all right? They introduce a bill, it'll be very simple, it'll be very short, and it'll say, in effect, that Washington, D.C. may not issue driver's licenses to illegal immigrants. I mean, after all, it is the nation's capital, okay? Then there will be a surge of people who will sign on to the bill, both in the Senate and in the House. Well, who didn't co-sponsor the bill? Who is it that wants illegal immigrants in our nation's capital to have a driver's license? Let's go a step further. If it gets enough momentum, President Obama is going to have to comment on it. If it gets enough votes in both chambers, President Obama is either going to have to sign it into law or he's going to have to veto it. So it becomes a political hot button issue for TV ads in the 2014 and perhaps the 2016 election cycle. Congressman so-and-so wants illegal immigrants in Washington, D.C. to have driver's licenses. Think about it. Law-abiding, decent people who have already been screened going into the airport, ridden on an airplane all the way to their destination, are now being forced to be in a detention pod, forced to be human sardines when they exit the airport. They're being detained for no legitimate reason. But we're going to give illegal immigrants a driver's license in our nation's capital. So, watch for this to emerge. Watch for it to become a political football. And we'll see if we watch ads about congressmen who either want illegal immigrants to have their own license or the congressmen who hate immigrants. Why do you hate people who are from other countries? You foul bigot. Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. we will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today.
Mabel, could I please have ribeye steak and baked potatoes for dinner? What? Goulash? Dang, this thing ain't working.
Thank heavens for the Tea Party. You know what I love about the Tea Party? The Tea Party movement is made up of people who are not hostages and slaves to cyberspace. You don't see too much of the Tea Party people asking for online petitions. I want you to compare how anemic the pro-life, pro-family movement has become, which is predominantly led by the Christian right, or I shouldn't say led, I should say exploited by the Christian right, and then look at the Tea Party. Right now, the Tea Party movement is in arguably its 4th year of having real political firepower, and it hasn't ceased. It hasn't stopped. And the thing that marks it is hands-on activism, or to use a political term, scalps. The Tea Party delivers scalps, political scalps on the wall. They defeat candidates, and they have other candidates who win. Rand Paul, Marcus Rubio. Go down through the list of scalps of moderate, squish, statist, establishment Republicans and people who actually believe something and are willing to say it publicly and willing to fight for it politically. Those people have come into places of service in the political realm predominantly because the Tea Party is the driving force. And by driving force, I mean they put boots on the ground. They're going door to door. They're manning phone banks. Yes, they're giving money. But they're not locked in cyberspace in an illusion. Now, I'm going to make an illustration, and this is for your good. An unnamed pro-life organization recently offered people, rather than go to the March for Life in Washington, D.C., which tragically is an annual event that happens on or about the anniversary of Roe versus Wade, that godless, bloodletting decision that brought the murder of over 50 million human beings, surgically, God knows how many chemically. This group said, why come to Washington, D.C. when you can have an avatar and you can participate in a cyber march? A cyber march. A cyber march? Is that like a cyber meal? What is a cyber march? Now imagine if you're trying to feed the hungry and you said, you're hungry? How would you like a cyber meal? Or you're trying to stop violence against women and you said, how would you like a cyber safe house? Imagine that you're a black American trying to end Jim Crow laws and you're going to march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge and get the heck beat out of you by state police. Why go to the march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Birmingham, Alabama, or Selma, Alabama, rather, when you can participate in a cyber march? If the civil rights movement had been doing cyber marches and cyber bus rides in the 1960s, the black people would still have Jim Crow laws. They'd still be riding on the back of the bus in real life, but on the front of the bus in the cyber freedom ride. Friend, put your iPad away. Don't give them to your kids. Buy musical instruments. Get involved in real life, get involved in the political realm, and maybe, just maybe, we'll get this country back. But in the meantime, we'll get our families back, maybe even our own souls back. you.